And then Chuck Medler came to our high school. He would come every year and work with our pitchers. And as a ninth grader, he watched me throw, and I was then recruited as a pitcher.
Coach, in 1966, you were drafted by the New York Yankees.
He says, I want you boys to know this. When you play, if you ever get to play pro ball, remember, you will never be treated as well as you were at Penn State. And I won't tell you the whole story, but you ask him sometime about the time he was caught violating curfew. He says, hey, I'll do anything. I'll do anything I can find. I got to be back on that field.
I bet he was begging.
What's up, Nittany Nation? Welcome back to another episode of the Clubhouse with Penn State Baseball. I'm your host, Kevin Carstetter, joined by my guy, Diamond Loosely. Today we've got a very special guest joining us. We're talking to a true Penn State baseball legend, Coach Stoner. He's a State College native, a former Nittany Lion player from the 1960s, and was the head coach of Penn State Baseball from 1982 to 1990. We're going to take a trip back in time with Coach Stoner today, talk about his playing days, his journey into coaching, what it was like leading the program back in the 80s, and where the program's at now, and how proud he is to see where we've grown to. So let's get into it. First question for you, Coach. You're a hometown guy. You're born and raised in State College, a graduate of State College High School. What was it like for you growing up in this town back then, and how did you lead toward Penn State and the sport of baseball as a kid?
First of all, when you went to Penn State and people asked you where you were from, and you said State College, you say, no, not where you went to school, where are you from? Well, that was one of the problems.
Yeah.
But as a kid, I played baseball here, obviously, and I looked at Penn State in those days, nice manicured field, and I thought, boy, it'd be nice to play on that field someday. But at that point, I had no desire to go to college. I was not an academic phenom by any stretch. I knew my mother couldn't afford to send me to Penn State, so I just sort of put it on the back burner.
Yeah.
And then Chuck Medler came to our high school. He would come every year and work with our pitchers. And as a ninth grader, he watched me throw, and I was then recruited as a pitcher. From ninth grade, he told me, just get your grades up, keep them there, and we'll get you Penn State someday.
That's awesome.
That's crazy.
4 years later, it happened.
Yeah, so that's what we want to get into, actually. You went on to play at Penn State from 1964 to 1967. I'm just curious, what drew you to stay home and maybe not go out of state, and why did you want to play for the Nittany Lions instead of leaving?
Well, I wasn't one of these that had 10 or 20 people after me. You know, I didn't have all those options. And I knew I wanted to come here. And so with Chuck giving me the motivation to get the grades and then to come to Penn State and get the grades at Penn State, that was really the turning point.
Yep.
And he was been my mentor the whole time.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I love that. So, Coach, in 1966, you were drafted by the New York Yankees, and you decide to come back to school. And I just want to hear a little bit about that decision. Obviously, you have a lot of pride here. Where's your mindset out there?
Well, first of all, it was an honor to be drafted. You know, I mean, they were telling me all along you're probably going to be drafted. Nobody talked about which round and all that, and I didn't even think about it. But when it came decision time, I realized a number of factors. Number one, the money wasn't there, not like people get today. I mean, you get drafted in the middle of rounds and you get pretty good money.
Yeah.
But in those days, it just wasn't there. And I looked at the odds. You know, you watch somebody that gets into pro ball, and the odds of making it are pretty doggone slim. And a lot of people don't realize that. You know, you're the phenom in your local high school. You know, you're the big fish in the little pond. And when you get into pro ball, it's the exact opposite. And so I thought, well, I better get an education. And I was one of those guys that I got married young. At the end of my sophomore year, I got married. And 2 years later, my son was born. So, you know, it wasn't a situation where I could just drop everything and go. And I felt I needed to have a degree and have a future if and when baseball didn't work out.
I love that.
So I took the gamble of maybe not being drafted again the next year, but I fortunately was.
Wow. And then roll around, right? 1967, you get drafted by the Oakland Athletics.
Yeah, well, but then it was Kansas City. Charlie Finley was in charge, and they changed it to the Oakland A's.
Okay, so changed it to the Oakland A's. You had a good connection there with them. Ended up playing 2 years in minor ball.
Right.
And minor ball, as we know it right now, is, I mean, it's tough skating.
Really.
And now, you know, you think about back then, Talk about what you experienced in those years playing pro ball.
Well, I didn't have the same problem that your brother Ryan did. You know, he was in an organization where they had like 40, 42 kids on one team, so you couldn't play every day and get any kind of a groove. And you felt like you were being cheated out of an opportunity even though you were drafted.
Yeah.
That wasn't the case in my situation because back then they had AAA, AA, B, C, and D. A lot of teams everywhere. And I went and I played in the rookie league my first year. Had a pretty darn good year. I enjoyed it. All the games were pretty much local.
Oh, wow.
In Bradenton area.
Oh, wow.
We
Okay.
traveled a little bit, but not much.
Yeah.
Not
Bus
like,
rides weren't too
not
bad.
like the Florida State League and not like some people travel. And, you know, I felt pretty good about that. I ended up being the MVP of that year in that league.
Wow.
And the ironic thing about that is later on, Darrell Evans, who played for the Braves and had 44 home runs one year, was on that team for a real short while.
All right.
And then he got promoted. And on his baseball card, he was the MVP in that league.
Stole it from me.
Yeah, so
there you
anyway,
Love
then
that.
the next year
That's
I
a
went
good
to the Florida State League and played there and played in all the big league training fields, except ours. We were in Leesburg, Florida. And it was run by, I won't mention his name, but it was run on a shoestring. I'll give you an example of how things were. You know, in minor leagues, now you're treated really well. Those days, not so good. You know, you're paid $550 a month.
Wow.
You're expected to live on that. And this
No
guy
housing, no food.
No
You gotta
housing,
figure it
no
out.
food. This guy was so cheap. He had a big drum, a wooden drum that was powered with an electric motor, and he had these big erasers inside there. And he'd throw all the grass-stained baseballs that would beat the pulp in there and would run that thing, and it would clean the dirt off and make them look whiter.
And you just
So from the stands, you thought they were playing with brand new baseballs. But the skin was loose on the ball, and it was just awful.
Seams
you hit
were
it, and it was
terrible.
like mush. It wouldn't go anywhere.
Wow.
So it was a pretty cheap operation.
Yeah.
Pitchers probably loved it though.
Yeah. Well, I'll give you another example. We were on the road one time, and of course we had our uniforms on. We played a doubleheader, and we're all pretty sweaty.
Yep.
And you take your uniform off, take a shower, throw it in a big bag, and there's a clubhouse boy supposed to wash those things.
Laundry guy.
Well, guess what? He didn't show up. So we had to pull all that stuff out of there that was smelling like ammonia and put it on and play the next game.
Oh,
The next day?
The next day.
Then the very next day.
The very next day.
wow.
So those kind of things happen in the minor leagues, and people think, well, you're a professional baseball player, but you're putting up with a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No doubt.
And my Medler used to say, hey, he says, I want you boys to know this. When you play, if you ever get to play pro ball, remember, you will never be treated as well as you were at Penn State. And he was right. You know, here we had the best equipment, wooden bats. It was the wooden bat era. You broke a bat, you just got another one out and kept going, you know.
Yep.
And nice travel. They tried to use it, you know, our travel as a cultural event where you could become a little more educated. For example, we'd go and play West Point. We'd stay in the city in New York and
Love
be
that.
exposed to the
Yeah,
city.
yeah.
No, I'd never been in a place like New York before. I mean, we were real rubes. And
Yeah, city boys.
Same thing with the Southern trip. When we finally made a Southern trip, we would go to Fort Eustis. Chuck Medler had some contacts there, and we would go there. But then the next year, we went to Lakeland, Florida, to Tiger Town. He played in the Tiger organization. He had some contacts. That's where we went. I'll never forget the first time I was ever on an airplane. We flew from State College to Tallahassee, Florida, on a prop jet. And my buddy, Steve Bazarnik, was sitting beside me. He played third base, I played first.
All right.
And we're flying along, and everything is smooth, and we're like this, looking at each other. And we're coming in for a landing, and all of a sudden we hear this a big grinding noise and a big boom, and we're going down. And when I looked at him, I'm sure my face looked just like his. We thought we were going down.
That's it. That's it.
But yeah, once we got over that and realized that's the landing gear coming down.
So you took a direct flight from State College to Tallahassee
Yeah.
in a propeller plane?
Yeah.
Wow.
We made it. I don't remember.
Count your blessings.
I get my facts mixed up sometimes in terms of the spacing of things.
Sure.
We may have landed somewhere else and then took
Yeah.
off again.
Yeah.
I don't know. But,
Still.
But that was the first time we
And
were, either
prop
one of us
plane.
was on a plane.
Wow.
How many seats did that thing hold?
We held our whole team.
Wow. That's
I
crazy.
mean, White Max would have been.
Yeah,
Would've
man,
been a lot.
that's awesome. That's really cool. I mean, you had a successful career as a player, obviously, right? You get drafted twice, so props to you. That's something, I mean, I'm sure your grandkids one day will be like, wow, Papa got drafted not only by the Yankees, but also, which is now the Athletics, right? And that's something I'm sure you're very proud of. Went on to have a successful career. of course, and then you left playing, right? And you decided to become a coach. I want you to take us through your time at Penn State Barron. It was originally a 2-year university when you took over there, right? I believe you were a professor and then became an assistant wrestling coach and then became the baseball coach.
Well, I went there as a baseball coach.
Okay.
It was one of the few schools in the system. I had an opportunity to go to 4 or 5 different schools within the Commonwealth campus system, and there were 17 of those at the time. And so I picked Barron because it was going to be a 4-year school. And the only one at that point was going to be a 4-year school. And as it turned out, up on Erie, Pennsylvania, it's a little bit cold up there in the wintertime, and the weather is really unpredictable. So that was a little bit of a disadvantage in terms of having a baseball team.
Yeah, no doubt.
But I picked them. I went there as the head baseball coach. I was the intramural director. I helped with the wrestling team a year or two. And we went there with a lot of promises on equipment and facilities and all that, and it was all delayed. Of course, after I left, they built this big, beautiful building and a nice swimming pool and beautiful library and all that kind of stuff.
Kind of the same story up here, right?
Yeah,
With
but
the
then
main
they
campus,
finally
but-
they put in a beautiful baseball field. It's now a Division III school, and I could get kids there only through selling a Penn State education.
Wow.
And the possibility of coming down here after 2 years if you're in certain majors, or staying on there and graduating in that particular major.
Wow.
So we played some good schools. I mean, we were an NAIA school. We were playing NAIA schools. And all of those schools had grants. We didn't have any. And most of my team was made up of freshmen and sophomores.
Wow.
And we had a pretty good situation. And I told Kevin this story. We beat Point Park for the district championship. We weren't supposed to do that. The next year, maybe it was the next year, I'm not sure if it was the next one or 2 years later, we were in the playoffs again against Liberty University. Then it was called Liberty College. And Sid Bream was on the team. Remember Sid Bream?
I do, yeah. He might not.
He had this
Guy
funky
could hit it.
stance where when he stood at the plate, his foot went like that, and he would uncoil.
It was a preset? It was a preset thing?
Yeah,
where
he did
okay.
that.
All right.
Of course, when he got into pro ball, they changed all that.
Yeah, but that's cool.
He had 4 home runs against us.
Wow.
Shohei Ohtani kind of thing.
Yeah.
He had 4 home runs.
Really good
And I
performance.
told Kevin, the last one, we were playing in Freeport, Pennsylvania.
Right.
And in right field, there were football stands that went up about 50 rows.
Yep.
Okay?
Yeah.
And it was like $3.75 to the gap. Beyond the football stands, there was an open area of grass.
Right.
Beyond that was a parking lot, and beyond the parking lot was a school.
All right.
He hit it up on the school.
Top of the school.
Yeah.
That's a bomb.
That's a bomb. 375 to the
The longest ball I've ever seen.
Wow. And that guy hit some mammo homers. That might have been 500 feet,
Yeah, it
honestly.
might be.
That's pretty cool. I mean, so you had a ton of success at Barron as a head coach, right?
Yeah.
And
Well, I don't know about a ton, but
Well-
we were respectable.
Yeah, absolutely.
you took it from a junior college, right, and then into a 4-year school. You saw that transition. And then 1982 comes around. And this is the moment I want you to take us through. What was it like? You then get the call. What was the process like? Somebody special called you and maybe offered you the opportunity to come be the head baseball coach at Penn State main campus, right? Can you take the fans through that?
Well, it wasn't like a phone call. I had lobbied for that job. I wanted it bad because it's my hometown. I wanted to come back here. And Chuck Medler was my mentor, and he was in my corner. Dick Smith was the assistant coach, and he played in the Power organization for a lot of years, behind Dick Rote. And Don Kepler was the freshman coach. And I told you this before, I think. In those days, you could not play varsity as a freshman. You must play on the freshman team.
Wow.
And that's where they decided, where you were going to fit in, if you were going to fit in at all. They made cuts and all of that. And that's when I went from being a pitching recruit to a hitter.
Gotcha.
And but then coming down here, I was reliving all of that whole situation and trying to figure out how I would do things down here. And you try to come in and sort of do things your own way. And I tried to upgrade the schedule and all that. But, not that I wanted to get rid of certain schools. Geographically, we had to play certain schools financially. And we had 4 grants. I couldn't go out and get out-of-state kids.
Yeah.
It was just, if there was an out-of-state kid on the program, they came on their own.
Wow.
Yeah. And your recruitment process was selling education.
Right, selling the education, selling the opportunity to play,
Yep.
and the Penn State name.
Yep.
And, it worked out in a lot of cases. And I ended up having to recruit a lot of local kids. I mean, State College High School, Penns Valley down the road, and so on, to fill out our roster. And we had decent success with that,
Yeah. So you mentioned Chuck Medler, right? And how he recruited you in 9th grade for education, realistically, right, at the time. Can you hit on how much he has. So Chuck Medler is the name of our stadium, right? The name of our field.
Yeah.
Can you hit on his connection to your personal and professional career in general?
Well, he was the head trainer at Penn State, and the first time I was ever exposed to him, I had come for a lower back injury, and you were allowed to do it in those days.
Okay.
You didn't have to violate any NCAA rules, and he treated me for that, and it turned out very good. But for some reason, he and I hit it off very well, and he got behind me on this new position, and those guys pushed for me, and Paterno was the AD at the time. He was coerced into being the AD for 2, maybe 3 years. I'm not sure how long. And it was because they needed a strong personality to sort of get things under control financially.
Get things grounded.
Yeah. And so he was the head football coach and the AD at the time.
So could you hit on that? I know we spoke off camera a little bit on the phone, but Joe Paterno, winningest football coach in Penn State football history, 409 wins, like a true legend around here. He was the athletic director at the time of you getting hired here at main campus.
Yeah, he was the one that had to find.
And he played a huge role in you coming here, but also you have a unique story about him helping you get settled here, right?
Yeah, it was a situation where in those days it was not as difficult as it is now to get tenure. Tenure is, you can't be fired for some frivolous thing. You have to do something seriously wrong, commit a major crime, that kind of thing. And so it's important for your future if you want to someday not coach and stay on. So when I was at Barron, I was in the HPER, Health, Physical Education, Recreation Department. And that's where I acquired tenure. You get tenure by publishing, doing some research and so on. And I recruited some professors at Barron that helped me do some research and so on, and fulfilled those obligations and got tenure. And then when I came here, it went from HPER to exercise and sports science, and then to kinesiology. Kinesiology was to reflect the research mission. Well, when I came in, they wanted to throw my tenure status back to some committee for evaluation to see if I really should have had tenure in the first place. Okay. And I went to Joe at that point and said, "Hey, I'm here with my wife and child, and I need to buy a house. I'm up in the air. If they throw this back to the committee, it's going to take forever."
Yeah.
And he says, "You've got tenure. Don't worry about it."
Wow.
Just like that.
Good man.
Just like that.
He really ran this place, huh?
Yeah. Well, he was a pretty influential guy.
He was a man.
That's really cool.
He was one of those guys that when he walked in the room, it's like you went like that.
Okay.
He just had that kind of magnetism, and he never forgot a name. Wow. I can't remember names at all.
I think it's beyond us the fact that, this is crazy, that you had to be a professor in order to be a coach. Your tenure or your career was more based off of how good of a professor you were, not so much the wins and losses, right?
Well, it was partly true. I'll have to say, I owe Penn State an awful lot. They never put pressure on me to have a certain record or anything like that. But you were evaluated on the academic side, that was a certain portion, and the coaching side was another portion. Of course, realistically, you spent a lot more time coaching than you did on the academic side. And in season, you got a reduced load, teaching load, so they compensated you that way.
Wow.
Okay.
But it was a feather in our cap, Penn State, reputation-wise, because they had a lot of coaches that would coach their sport and teach their sport to the general student body.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Wow.
And that was an attractive feature.
Yeah.
So, Coach, at one point in your coaching career here, there was even talk about cutting the baseball program. Mm-hmm. What do you remember about that period, and how close did it actually come?
After I took the position, there were rumors floating around. And how rumors are, you don't know how true they are, you don't know where they come from. Mm-hmm. I have no idea how close it came. But at that point, my philosophy was I'm just going to do the best I can and see if we can pull this out of the fire.
Yeah.
If it turns out that the rumors were true.
Yep.
And I guess they weren't true, because...
There was never talk within the committee or within...
No, there was no committee that I know of that I was ever a part of.
Okay.
But it was an uncomfortable thing to think that it might be going by the boards, because it had been around a long time.
Yep.
And my philosophy at that point was just to try to keep it going, and hopefully somebody that had a little more power would decide that it's worth keeping. And it did happen that over the course of time, I went from 4 grants gradually up to 5 and 6, and finally had 8 out of 13. That's the most we ever had, 8.
So, you could see that,
But
the school was pushing.
Yeah.
The school was pushing at the time for a good team.
But you could break up the grants. See,
I don't
know what it's like now. But then, if you gave a grant to a football player or a basketball player, it was an all or none. You had to give a full ride.
Okay.
In baseball and the other non-revenue sports, you could break it up any way you chose. You could give 500 to some kid and 1,000 to another and all that. Right. But it was in-state money. That's the other critical
Only
fact.
in-state money. So you couldn't even recruit any out-of-state kids, even if there's a...
See, now a grant is based on dollar-wise. It's based on an out-of-state grant, which is a lot more money. So those 13 grants, if you stayed in-state, you had a lot more grants.
Yeah. But when you took over here, you only had 4, and other schools around you.
4 in-state.
4 in-state, yeah, but other schools around you could have 13. That's a huge disadvantage.
I don't know what places like West Virginia had and Temple and schools like that. You asked me the other night off campus, who did you play? And I drew a blank. I just couldn't think of them. But we were in the Atlantic 10. We were as an independent. Then we went to the Atlantic 10, and we had a prescribed number of certain opponents, but. And they're all Division I schools, and they all had a good reputation for being baseball.
Sure.
West Virginia, Rutgers.
Probably more grants than us at the time.
Well, he probably had more grants than we did. Yeah. I don't know that for sure.
Yeah. So nowadays, right, we compete in the Big Ten. We play schools like Oregon and UCLA and Washington, which is probably crazy to you to even think about. But back then, you guys were playing some really small schools because you had to play locally. Could you tell some of the fans who you would play back in the day?
Well, we did play some good schools when we went on our Southern trip, And as a sidelight to that, I felt it was very important we make a Southern trip. When I was a student here, our Southern trip was paid for, but we didn't go but to Florida one time, so on. When I was in charge, I felt we needed to try to upgrade our schedule. So they weren't willing, meaning the administration, wouldn't fish out the money or dish out the money to allow us to make this trip. So what we did what some other student groups did, we cleaned the football stadium. We got 42 guys together, and the job was to sweep every aisle out to the center, sweep it down, bag all that stuff, take it out to the dumpsters, and we ended up getting close to 10 grand for that.
Wow.
And that financed our Southern trip.
That paid for the trip.
That's awesome.
That's pretty cool.
I love that.
Man.
And then when looking back, Coach, when you're looking back at your years leading Penn State baseball in the 1980s, how do you describe the state of the program at the time? Knowing that maybe they might shut it down, and also if you were to compare it to nowadays, what would you say?
Well, after a few years, I felt pretty safe. I thought at that point it must have been a rumor, and I sort of relaxed and went with the flow.
Yeah.
But in that same time frame, my senior year, we went up to play Syracuse, and that very year they dropped baseball. So it was around the corner for some people.
Yeah.
And I still don't think they have a program.
No, I don't think they have.
We could have been on the chopping block.
Yeah, it was weather related.
Yeah.
God willing, people like you, and they kept the program rolling, and
Absolutely.
now we're getting to see the fruits of the labor, kind of. But I got some questions for you. So the facilities back then, I think a lot of people want to know about that.
Okay.
The original field where you guys played at was actually near Rec Hall, right?
Okay, all right. The original field that I played on, that I went to skip school to go see them play when I was a kid, was up by Rec Hall. You could walk out in front of Rec Hall where the Nittany Lions statue is now. Kern Building is to your left. The football stadium was out there beyond Kern Building.
Wow.
Okay.
Wow.
And to the right of that was another field where they had a practice field for the football team, and freshmen played there. If you went a little further out to the corner of Park Avenue and the road, I can't remember the name of the road that went into Chambers Building, home plate was right in that corner. And when you hit toward Rec Hall to center field, left field was to Chambers Building, right field was to the football stadium.
Wow.
And if you really crushed it, you might hit it into the football field.
That's awesome.
But Chuck Medler was a pitching guy, and he didn't want to get beat Freddie Freeman style, at the end of the game with a home run. So he had the fences out there, 350 or 50 plus feet,
He's
and
probably
down the
Medler.
lines,
It's probably
out to
Medler's
375 and 405 to center. But it wasn't even a permanent fence. It was not a chain link. It was a snow fence with the wooden slats.
Yep.
Okay, that went all the way around. That was our field, but the playing surface was excellent.
Wow.
My senior year was the last year for that field. In the corner, when you hit the ball there with trees around it, really cracked. It was just a great feeling there. That was the last year for that. Then I went off and played a couple of years of pro ball, came back in the off season, worked on my master's degree, and then in the spring went back to baseball. Then Chuck moved with the field down to where the soccer and lacrosse field is right now. That's where that field was for umpteen number of years.
So where Jeffrey Field is, up near Beaver Stadium, is where Beaver Field was. Is
Right,
what you're
and
saying.
when I came back to coach, that's where I coached, on that field.
Gotcha.
How was that
and,
field?
They did a great job with the field, but it was wide open. You know, you hit the ball and it was like poof. It didn't have any kind of reverberation whatsoever.
Yeah.
And the wind just didn't get broken out there. I'll give you a couple little stories on the wind. We had the wind so bad out there in the spring one time, we had one of those portable cages, and we had an auxiliary infield where we could take infield so when it was too wet. It was on wheels, like wheelbarrow kind of wheels, rubber wheels. The wind was blowing so hard, it blew that backstop all the way up the hill to those posts that were up there about this tall. It cracked into those things, and we had put background netting on the backstop so that from the outfield you could see the ball. Blowing against that backstop, it bent it over like that.
Oh,
You kidding me?
I've never seen anything like that in my life.
It's the little things that we take.
You guys
for
are
granted.
chasing the
Yeah.
backstop.
Oh, yeah, you hit a ball up in the air, you didn't know where it was going to be.
Wow.
It was really bad. It's like Candlestick Park.
Wow, it's crazy hearing that, and then we get to go to a $35 million facility
Oh,
every day.
What's going on, guys? Thank you for tuning in to State Media. I just want to let you guys know this is all made possible because of Family Clothesline. The crew down there does a great job, super supportive, and we can't thank them enough for their partnership. Make sure when you guys are in town, check them out. Got the best gear, freshest stuff, always up to date, super creative. And again, thank you for tuning in.
But talking about facilities, Chuck Medler was pretty unique in the sense that we had to prepare for a southern trip. And back then, the academic calendar was quite different than it is now. We were on a term system, 4 10-week terms. And that meant that we ended in June when there was a little better weather. So we had to get prepared to go south. And we didn't have a nice big facility like you have now. So we went to the ice rink. And we're in there practicing. They brought in 2x8 planks, boxed in all kinds of dirt, put in 2 batting cages, and we threw in there to regular batting practice, and then we threw competitively and got the pitcher's arms in shape. They had mounds set up that would throw to home plates.
Wow.
In that cold. And we did it in shifts.
Wow.
He had us scheduled out that we would come to rec hall. We would, at the appointed time, jump on a blue bus, a typical Penn State blue bus. They would take us down to the Greenberg ice rink, okay, go in and do our thing, and then leave and come to training table, which was in the hub in those days. Wow. And they had great food. We enjoyed that. But, it got us ready, so at least we could go down south and get outside with the ball in the air rather than being out there fumbling around trying to catch a pop-up.
No doubt. Wow, that's cool. I mean, switching gears a little bit here. The reason we're such good family friends, right? I've known you pretty much my whole life. You probably knew me before I was even a thought. But my dad had the opportunity to play for you here in 1985 and 1986. He's a Penn State baseball alum like yourself. And without you, I'm probably not here playing. You gave him an opportunity. He played at a junior college, Allegheny Junior College. You recruited him out of there. He came up to Penn State, and he had some fun playing for his hometown school. But I just want to ask some questions about that. What was it like coaching him back in the day? Was he a fiery guy? Was he kind of low energy? What was that like?
Well, we sort of had a pair come from Allegheny. It was your dad and C.J. Sichler from State College, both excellent ball players. C.J. ended up being my number 3 hitter. Your dad was number 4, and he had some power. He had all the tools. I can't understand why he never got drafted, really. Now, CJ, in CJ's case, I can understand, and I don't mean this in a negative way, but he hurt his arm. And if you can't run, hit, and throw and have all the skills, they're not going to take you. And so that was his downfall. But your dad, he was a fiery player. He had a lot of intensity. Both of those guys did.
Runs the family.
And yeah, what's that?
As it runs the family.
Yeah, he had a lot of intensity. But he hit with power. And without he and CJ, they brought the program up a level at that point. And I wasn't recruiting from junior colleges. The only reason I brought them here is because, number one, Steve Bazarnik was the head coach down there, and he had a lot of success down at Allegheny Community College. And he and I were teammates. And so he referred them to me, and apparently they were willing, without even being pushed, to come here. So
That's cool. That's really cool. Yeah, and I appreciate it. We're very grateful for you. I am, for sure. You were a good mentor for me growing up, and you just know ball, you know what I mean? So
well, your dad, he would have done anything to play, I tell you a little. I won't tell you the whole story, but you ask him sometime about the time he was caught violating curfew.
Oof. I bet that one was
That'll be a good story. I'll need to hear about that.
You say to yourself, you say to yourself, well, how do you treat these guys? These are the core of my team, And the old-fashioned coaches would say, okay, I'm gonna find a fringe player and just put the hammer down on him so everybody else sees what could happen. And then you don't have any more problems.
Yeah.
But I couldn't do that with your dad.
Jeez.
I couldn't do it with CJ. But, he expressed a concern and he said, hey, I'll do anything. I'll do anything. I got to be back on that field.
Oh, I bet he was begging you. I bet. Yeah, so
Anything,
last night.
He may get mad at me for saying that, but it was one of the funniest things I ever had as a coach.
It's a good deal.
You're his
And
coach.
I treasure that,
Yeah,
and he feels like I did an awful lot for him. And I really didn't. I mean, he fit the bill. He was what we needed. He did the job, and I'm forever thankful to him.
That's awesome. Well, it's really cool how coaches can have a good impact on your life, right?
Absolutely.
I mean, look, some 40 years later, my dad's like 62 now, and he still keeps in contact with you. And then I'm sure it's cool to see like his son get to talk with his coach. You know what I mean? It's all this
Well, we
big
play golf
triangle, so we're
together,
very lucky.
periodically. He's out driving me now by only 80 yards.
So last night when we heard about this podcast, I reached into his gear vault. I want to check it out, and he's got a hat from 1986, and this is what Penn State used to rock in the day. I mean, this thing's barely holding on by a thread, but pretty crazy times. We're lucky now. We get all the Nike stuff and all the uniforms, and they treat us so well. So that's kind of my next question for you is, you were here at the beginning of this program. Obviously, you played here and you coached here and you had so much success. And without people like you, we don't get to experience these things. So we are very, very grateful for people like yourself. But we got a brand new $22 million facility upgrade at Medler within the last 2 years, a brand new surface, LED lights when you hit a home run that flicker, a big jumbotron, a state-of-the-art locker room, hot tubs, cold tubs in there.
Massage chairs.
It's unbelievable.
Unreal.
Like we're spoiled, we're lucky. We obviously are grateful for it. Last year with Coach Gambino, they had the second most wins in program history. They're making steps in the right direction. We're trying to make this a baseball school. That's obviously the goal. And they're getting better talent in here. Tied for most draft picks last year in the 2025 MLB draft with 5 players selected. So my question is, how proud does it make you to see how far the program has come and where you think it can go from here on out?
I think that where the top is unlimited at this point. I mean, the facilities are just fabulous here, and I can't help but say I'm very envious. If I'd have had a fraction of that back in the day, it would have been so much better for us. But now you're playing 60 games?
Yeah,
we scheduled 28.
Wow.
Okay.
And maybe got in 26. But so it's just an upgrade of everything. Your travel. I mean, you're flying all over the place.
Yeah, 2 planes.
We had to bus it everywhere we went. Penn State had their own double-decker bus and a small bus, and then they got rid of those because it was cost-effective to lease buses.
Wow.
So, but we didn't travel all over the country. We were pretty much a regional program. And I just feel good that, we had something to do with keeping the program going.
Yeah.
Sure.
And you're a huge step in that.
Yeah.
Huge step in that process, because without you, I mean, shoot, we might not even be here.
No, we probably wouldn't be here.
Yeah, probably wouldn't be
So
here.
we need to be thankful for those people.
Well,
absolutely.
it took a while to get there, though. I mean, they've gone through a few coaching changes and so on to get there. And Penn State finally has decided they're going to support baseball.
That's been the biggest part, and we've
and,
hit on that a lot.
I mean, look what they're doing with wrestling. I understand they're going to build a new standalone wrestling facility, and certainly if anybody deserves it, they do.
No doubt. Winners should get treated differently, for sure. But we're lucky, like you talk about taking buses to regional games. We fly private almost everywhere, and we don't take one plane, we take 2 planes.
Yeah.
Like, that's the
Pitchers
investment.
and position players playing.
Yeah. But that's the investment from now to back when you were coaching. That's the difference. They've just put a lot of money in the program, and when you put money into it, you usually win, and you get to see a reward on that aspect. But let's get into the MLB right now. World Series is going on. Crazy game last night, an 18-inning marathon that took over 5 hours between the Dodgers and the Blue Jays. Shohei Ohtani, 4 for 4 last night. I think 5 intentional walks. We've had people on the show that think he's the greatest player of all time. I would agree with it. But I want your picks for the World Series. Who do you have taking it all, Dodgers versus Blue Jays?
Well, I have to go with the Dodgers because they won that game last night. That's a big motivator right there.
Good game.
And they lost. Toronto lost their outfielder. What's his name? Starts with an S.
Springer.
Yeah. They lost him. I think he's probably out for the rest of the time. He's out.
Yeah, he's
That's
got
going to be a
oblique.
big hole in the lineup. They got a big hole at shortstop. In terms of a hitter. So I think between those two and the fact that the Dodgers are hot right now and they've got the momentum, I think they're probably going to win it.
Yeah, I'd say you're right on track here, Coach. I mean, with that long 18 game, I mean, you look at the bullpen for both teams. Is they're going to be beaten. To scratch a win out of that, Game 3 is huge. And you're Ohtani, you're 4 for 4. I mean, I'm pretty sure his home stats in the last 2 games, he's 9 for 9 with 5 pumps.
Well, you heard about the other game when he pitched.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. That was the last time he played at home.
3 home runs. And
shoot, today
people don't do that.
I tried to prove this somebody the other day. Do you think you've seen a lot of really good players?
I think he's excellent, but you can't hardly do what he's done in batting practice.
No.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We were talking about
home run
that.
derby, that kind of thing. He's just amazing.
Ridiculous.
It's hard to hit homers in BP, and he's doing it.
And the nice
in
thing
games.
is that he doesn't go nuts when he doesn't do well. If he strikes out,
no, he doesn't.
Okay, I'll get him next time.
Yep.
That's the great attitude. That's the kind of thing I always tried to impart. It's not productive to go ape on yourself and get mad and get all swearing and all that. Just get next chance you get do better.
Yeah, he's a perfect example of love the game. It's gonna love you back at some point, right?
We're learning something here, T-Mo. We got to pay attention.
No, I hear you.
You got it?
Yeah.
College football.
We on college football right
let's
here.
do it.
All right, we're rolling to college football picks, Coach Stoner. Our first game of the weekend, we got number 9 Vandy against number 20 Texas. Vandy's coming off a pretty big win off from Mizzou. Bo. There's a lot of hype in that for them to roll off of that. Who do you got?
Well, there's a lot of upsets, but I don't think that's going to be one of them. Vanderbilt, I think, is going to win that.
You like
That's
it.
crazy to hear that Vanderbilt is not an upset anymore.
Well, that's where Franklin came from.
Not.
That's true.
I'm missing a paper
That's
here.
true. Little pipeline, Vandy to Penn State, I guess.
All right.
I got Vanderbilt. I'm with you.
You got Vandy. All right. You got Vandy.
I'm a Pavia fan.
All right.
I like him.
Big Pavia fan here. You got him an extra year. Tennessee.
Oh, Tennessee, no doubt.
Tennessee all the way.
I'm with him, no doubt.
Going
That
south.
atmosphere is going to be crazy. Night game at Neyland Stadium. They say that's one of the best atmospheres in college football. There, Death Valley with LSU, and then obviously Penn State, like a whiteout game. So
Yeah.
I don't think Oklahoma's going in there and beating Tennessee.
Yeah, I'll roll with Tennessee as well. And our last pick. And everybody.
Hold your breath here.
There's a lot of build-up for this one, but Penn State, Ohio State, number 1 against a non-ranked Penn State.
Well, I'll tell you
For a long
what,
time.
there was a guy on the radio that your dad told me about that was talking about history of Penn State, Ohio State. And there was back, I don't know how many years ago it was, but Penn State was not supposed to win the game. They were severe underdogs, and they beat Ohio State. This one is taking place on about the same date, those many years apart. And I can remember as a kid when Penn State beat Ohio State, similar situation, right up here on College Avenue. The crowd went crazy in this town. They were rocking buses and rolling cars over and everything else.
Just takes one win.
So you never know. It could happen, but it probably isn't going to happen this time.
Oh, he led us up to it.
He's good. I love it.
Yeah.
All right, Kevin, what do you got?
Yeah,
I mean,
you're not beating Ohio State, not at this point, and you got your team's really in shambles. So you feel bad for
They
them.
just got too much of a powerhouse.
No,
Yeah.
and if you're in a locker room and you're one of those guys and your coach gets fired, like the guy that recruited you, that shakes you up really good. You don't get over that for a while. So Ohio State, they're going to crush us.
Okay, now you can take this off of the thing. I want to ask the question here. What's the rumor on who they're going to hire for football? You guys are on the inside track now. What's the rumor?
You can fact check me here. This is from a state college source that's like boots on the ground, knows a lot around this town. He said Urban Meyer was in town last week for an interview. I have no clue if that's true.
He had to resign a number of times for health reasons.
It's true, but maybe he got the itch again, like yourself.
Who
Maybe you
knows?
can come back.
Who knows?
But now wrapping up here, we are so appreciative of you coming on this show. That was awesome. You've shared so many cool stories with us and just given us some insight. We're appreciative of people like you that laid the foundation of this program, and we hope to continue it on. But we just want to shout out Family Clothesline. They're the best hosts. They have us every week. Every Tuesday night they're here. The lights are on, the music's off, so we're rolling, and we're super appreciative of them. Want to thank you, Coach Stoner, again, and I just wish you all the best health and fortune going forward. Thank you so
Thank you.
much.
Appreciate it, Coach Hunter.
Thank you.
Thank you. Nittany Nation, that's the Clubhouse with Penn State Baseball. That's Season 1, Episode 3. We're signing off. We'll see you next week.